Hello my dear students, welcome to Teacher at Home. Today class we are going to learn the 17th chapter, that is the forest, our lifeline. So we can start the chapter. That is an introduction. One evening, Bumjo entered the park with an elderly person. He introduced him to the friends. Professor Ahmad was a scientist working in the university. So Bujo he introduced a person who has been working in the university, and he is Professor Ahmad. The children started playing with Professor Ahmad sat on a bench in the corner. He was tired as he had participated in the Golden Jubilee celebrations of the town. After a while, the children also came and sat round him. They wanted to know about the celebrations. Professor Ahmad told them that after the cultural program, the senior people discussed the town's unemployment problem. A plan was proposed to put up a factory by clearing an area of the forest just outside the town. This would give the increasing population of the town a chance to get jobs. The children were very surprised when Professor Ahmed told them that many people had objected to this idea. This is because the forest serves green lungs and water purifying systems in nature. Professor Ahmed explained. The children were confused. Professor Ahmed realized that the children had not visited a forest. The children also wanted to know about the forest, so they decided to visit it with Professor Ahmed. So what was the things that has been told in the first paragraph? It is that Abu Joy introduced his that is introduced a person who is been very close to him, to his friends. That is, he is a professor who is working in the university, and after participating in a golden jubilee, he came to this park, and he said that they were discussing about the unemployment problem that were facing by the youth. So by clearing a forest and developing a factory, they could provide jobs to those people. But clearing a forest, it is not accepted by many of the people, because forests are the green lungs and water purifying systems of the nature. So in order to, the children were amazed to hear the forest, because they had never been seen a forest before. Visit to a forest. One Sunday morning, the children packed a few things like knife, hand lens, stick, notebook, and walked together through a forest trail near a village. So they planned to walk through the forest by taking the necessary things like stick, notebook, and lens. On the way, they met Thibaut, a young boy of their age group nearby village who was taking cattle for grazing along with his son. So when they were moving, they saw a boy of the same age. What was he doing? He was grazing the cattle. He was very agile, running here and there to keep the herd together. When he saw the children, Thibaut also started walking along with them. So he was running here and there to look after the cattle which were wandering here and there. So when he saw the children, he also started walking with them. Went on to a different path. As soon as they entered the forest, Thibaut raised his hand and signaled them to keep quiet because noise could disturb the animals living in the forest. So Thibaut knew everything. When compared to other children, Thibaut know about facts about the forest. So he told them to keep quiet while walking through the forest. Thibaut then took them to the place at the height to show that the broad view. So in order to show he know moreover every places we think Thibaut know the exact position of the forest. So he asked them to keep to place in that position so that they can get a broad view of that forest. Children were surprised because they could not see any land. The different tree tops had formed green cover over the land. So when we are reaching a height, we cannot see the land separately. Only a bunch of trees will be seen. However, the cover was not uniformly green. The environment was peaceful and a cool breeze was blowing. This made the children quite fresh and happy. So they are getting the fresh air and a cool wind. It is touching them. While coming down, they got excited on hearing a sudden sound of birds and some noise from the top branches of the tree. So when they came down, they heard a sound, the sudden sound of birds and some noise from the top branches of the trees. Thibaut told them to relax since it was a normal phenomenon here. Because of the children's presence, some monkeys have climbed higher up on the trees where they disturbed the trees. Animals often give this type of warning call to alert other animals. Thibaut also told that other animals like boar, bison, jungles, porcupine, elephants live in the deeper areas of the forest. So, some monkeys have climbed higher up the trees. So, on seeing these children, monkeys started climbing up the trees. They can also see other animals in the deep forest. They should not go deep into the forest. But Professor Ahmed warned them not to go to the deep of the forest. Bujo and Paheli remembered that they have studied about forest as an example of the habitat in class 6. They could see how the forest provides a home for a forest is providing a home for all the animals, trees, plants and various creatures that have been surrounding them. Here is a bamboo tree, neem tree, shesham, then semal, covered with different type of creepers and climbers. The land where the children were walking was uneven and covered with many trees. They can see long trees, that is everlasting trees like sal, teak, simal, shisham, neem, palasha, fig, kair, amla, bamboo and kacha. Many trees we cannot see in our places too. Professor Ahmed pointed out that there are several other trees, shrubs, herbs and grasses in the forest. The forest floor and the trees were also covered with different type of creatures. So these plants and trees were being covered with many type of creepers and climbers. The sun was barely visible through the leaves of the trees, making it quite dark inside that is we can see the path of the sun rays being reaching on the ground, but making the quiet darkness of the dark inside the forest. Observe the various things in your home and made a list of those which are made from material which had been obtained from the forest. We had seen many bamboo chairs being visible in our houses that is being made from the bamboo trees. You might have many wooden items on a list like plywood, firewood, boxes, paper, matchsticks and furniture. Do you know that gum, oil, spices, fodder for animals and medicinal plants are also some of the products which we get from the forest? Based on the products that we get from plants, one example of each plant it is already given. Fill the table by adding more examples. Sheila wondered who would have planted these trees. Professor Ahmed replied that in nature trees produce enough seeds. That is, it is not been planted by anyone. It has been, that is, the seeds themselves started growing when the birds picked in the soil. The forest floor provides favorable conditions for them to germinate and develop into seedlings. It is honey, sealing wax, gum, then what? Cashew, wooden statue, and sapling grow up to the trees. He added the branchy part of the tree above the stem. It is known as the crown of the tree. Crown shape. So this is the crown shape of the trees. Then Professor Ahmed asked children to look up and observe how the branches of the trees look like a roof over the other plant in the forest. He told them that is called as a canopy. Canopy means what? A roof over the other plants. Visit a forest or a park in your neighborhood. Observe the trees and try to identify them. You can take the help of some elders or books on the trees. List the characteristics of the tree that you observe and such as what has to be observed: the height, shape of leaves, crown, flowers, fruits. Everything has to be noted down. Also draw the crowns of some trees. If you are able to recognize, you can draw the crowns of some trees also. Professor Ahmed pointed out that trees had crowns of different types and sizes. They had created different horizontal layers in the forest. That is, the stepwise planting of the trees, planting themselves of the trees will be there. They are known as the understories. Giant and tall trees constitute the top layer, followed by shrubs, tall grasses and herbs that is being found in the lowest layer. Here for gum, bamboo, timber, shisham, medicinal neem and oil, sandalwood is being used. This is what we told as canopy. That is, see here, a roof-like structure. That is the canopy. This is the understory, small plants. Would we see similar kind of trees in every forest? Yes, all types of trees will be seen in forest. Professor, no, due to different climatic conditions. That is, trees will be found. A bulk of trees will be found, but it varies depending upon the climatic conditions and the type of trees and plants. The type of animals also differ from forest. Animals also differ from forest to forest. What animals we are seeing in our forest will not be seen in some other countries. A few children were busy watching beautiful butterflies fluttering here and there on the flowers of shrubs and herbs. As we can now, it is very rarely to see a butterfly in our garden, but the children were fluttered seeing the butterflies wandering here and there. They had a close look at the bushes. While doing that, their hair and clothes had seeds and thorns clinging to them. They came across numerous insects, spiders, squirrels, ants, and various other small animals on the bark of the trees. That is, they come across bottle creatures, insects, spiders, squirrels, ants, and various other animals, plant leaves, and on decaying leaves on the forest floor. They started making sketches of these creatures. The forest floor seemed dark colored and was covered. Why it is seemed to be dark colored? Because it has been covered with many leaves, dead and decaying leaves, fruits, seeds, then what pinks and everything falls on the ground, so it seems to be dark. Was moist and warm. Children picked up various seeds and leaves for their collection. Walking, it is very amazing to collect the seeds and of various types. No, rarely we can see that. Walking over the dead leaf layer of the forest floor was while walking over a spongy carpet. So he seems to be walked like a spongy carpet. Is the decaying matter always warm? Professor Amar suggested that the children could perform an activity to get an answer to this question. Dig a small pit. Put vegetable waste and leaves in it. Cover them with soil. Add some water. After a few days, remove the upper layer of the soil. Does the pit feel warm inside? Seems to be. Paheli said, there are so many trees here. Also, there are so many forests like this. What difference will it make if we cut some trees for a factory? Professor Ahmed said, you have read about autotroph, heterotroph and saprotrophs. You have learned how animals, that is green plants, produce the food. All animals, whether herbivorous or carnivorous, depend directly or indirectly on plants for their food. Organisms which feed on plants often eaten by other organisms and so on. That is what we had seen, that a food process we had studied earlier. That is, plants prepare their own food using photosynthesis. Animals directly or indirectly depend on plants for their food. And there are many, that is herbivorous, then carnivorous, depend ultimately on plants for their food. Grass is taken by the insects, which in turn is taken by the frog. That is, a pyramid will be seen. The frog is consumed by snakes. That is food chain. What is that? Grass eaten by insects, taken by frog, then snake, then eagle. Many food chain can be found in the forest. All food chains, they are being found to be linked. If any one food chain is disturbed, it affects other food chains. Every part of the forest is dependent on other parts. If you remove one component, that is the say trees, all other components will also be affected. That is here the nutrition, decomposers, soil, water, photosynthesis, carbon dioxide and oxygen, it is being present here. Professor Ahmed asked children to pick up the leaves from the forest floor and observe them under a hand lens. They found tiny mushrooms over the decaying leaves. They also saw an army of tiny insects, millipedes, ants and beetles of them. They were wondering how these organisms live there. Professor Ahmed explained that apart from these animals, which we have seen earlier, there are several organisms, microorganisms that live in the soil. Paheli wondered what mushroom and other microorganisms eat. Replied that they feed upon the dead plant and animal tissues and convert them to a dark colored substance called the humus. That is when they were walking along, Professor asked them to collect some of the leaves that is been found on the underground, found on the ground. So when they took, they found the small mushrooms. So Paheli feeling amazed what these mushrooms take for their take as food. Professor told that it will be depending upon the dead decaying parts that is being present in the soil. That is the reason for the dark color of the substance, and hence it is named as humus. In which layer of the soil would you find humus? What is its importance? The microorganism which convert the dead plants and animals to humus, it is known as the decomposers. The microorganisms play an important role in the forest. Soon Paheli removed some dead leaves and discovered under them a layer of humus on the forest floor. Presence of humus ensures that the nutrients of the dead plants and animals are released into the soil. So these nutrients are being released into the soil. From there, these nutrients are again absorbed by the root of the living plants. That is, the nutrients, they are absorbed by the by the leaf of the root of the living plants. What happens if an animal dies in the forest? Sheila asked. Tibu replied that dead animals become food for what? Vultures, crow, jackals and insects. This way the nutrients are cycled, so nothing goes waste in the forest. Paheli reminded Professor Ahmed that he did not explain why forests are called the green lanes. Explained that plants release oxygen through the process of photosynthesis, help to provide oxygen for animal respiration. How? Because they are taking the carbon dioxide and releasing the oxygen. That oxygen, it is being in turn taken by the plants. And they also maintain the balance of oxygen and carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. That is why forests are called lungs. Because the main duty of the lungs is to maintain the level of oxygen and carbon dioxide in the body. The children saw clouds forming in the sky. Bujho recalled that what he had learned about the water cycle. Trees take in water from their roots and release water vapor into the air through evaporation. That is the evaporation that is been taking place in the trees. Tipu told that the forest is not just a home for plants and animals. Many people also live in forests. Some of them may belong to different tribes. So many tribes are also living in the forest. Tibu explained that the people depend mostly on the forest. For what purpose they depend? Food, shelter, water and medicines. They have traditional knowledge about many medicinal plants also. When Bujhor was drinking water from a small stream, he saw some deer crossing the stream. They disappeared into bushes. The dense bushes and the tall grass provide animals with the food and shelter. They also protect them from carnivores that live in the forest. The dense bushes or tall trees provide shelter. Then showed that the children dropping of some animals and explained the droppings between various type. Professor Ahmad informed that the forest officers could recognize the presence of some animals in the forest. That is how they are recognizing the presence of the animals is by seeing their droppings and also the footprints. Bujo called everyone and showed them a large decaying heap of animal dropping. Several beetles and grubs were feeding on the heap and a bunch of seedlings and sproutings. The seedlings are of herbs and shrubs. Here in the picture we can see the sapling that is being generated from the wall. Animals also disperse the seeds of the small plants and to grow and degenerate. The decaying animal dung also provide nutrient to the seedlings in order for growing. After listening to the Bujo noted in his notebook, by harboring greater variety of plants, the forests provide what greater opportunities for food and habitat of the herbivores. Larger number of herbivores means increased availability of food for a variety of carnivores. This picture we can see the transpiration, evaporation, the closed canopy and many layers of vegetation slowed down the speed of the rain. The root system helped to water to seed down in the ground. Carnivores. The wide variety of animals help the forest to degenerate and grow. The decomposers help in maintaining the supply of nutrient to the growing plants and in the forest. Therefore, the forest is the dynamic living entity. That is, the full of life and vitality means stability to the plants and the creatures living there. It was about afternoon and the children wanted to be back. Tibu wanted to be back. Tibu suggested another route for going back. While they were going back, it started raining. Surprisingly, they saw the raindrops were not hitting them because the forest, that is, the trees, form a canopy and act as a prevention to the flow of rain to the ground. Most of the water was coming down through branches and stems of the leaves. From the leaves, it was dripping slowly over branches of the shrubs and herbs. And was found dripping slowly over branches of the shrubs and herbs. They found that the ground was still dry. After about a half an hour, the rain stopped. They noticed that the layer of dead leaves over the forest floor appeared wet now. But water did not stagnate in the forest. Why it is? It is because the water it is been reaching the lower layer. Buju thought that if it had rained so heavily in this town, it would have flooded the drains and roads. So they are thinking that if this type of rain it is seen in our town means it will be causing flood. But here every water that is been reaching had been utilized in the soil. Buju thought that if it rained heavily in your town, Professor Ahmed told them that the forests also act as a natural absorber of rainfall and allows it to sleep. It helps maintain the water table throughout the year. Forests not only help in controlling floods but also help maintain the flow of water in the stream so that we get a steady supply of water. Told them the forest also act as a natural absorber of water, rainwater and allows it to seep. It helps the forest, that is the water table throughout the year. Forests not only help in controlling the floods but also help to maintain the flow of water into the streams so that they get a steady supply of water. On the other hand, if trees are not present, rain hits the ground directly and may flood the area around it. So, if trees were not found to be present here, what it causes it is a great flood will be occurring. Heavy rain may also damage the soil. Roots of trees normally blend the soil together, but in their absence, the soil it is washed away and eroded. The children spent an hour at Tibu's village on their way back. The weather of the village was quite pleasant. As it was near the forest, it seems that the weather surrounding it was quite pleasant. And villagers told them due to the rainfall, due to surrounding forest, they receive a good rainfall and the air also seems to be cool. Noise pollution too is less because the forest absorbs the noise of nearby highway. The children learn about the history of the village. It surprised them that the villages and the agriculture fields of the area were created after clearing the forest about 60 years ago. So these villages had been come to true only when the forest they cleared the forest, that is about 60 years before they had cleared the forest. A small area of the forest had been cleared and they formed the village. Tibu's grandfather told them that when he was young, the village was not as large as it was. It was also surrounded by forests. Construction of roads, buildings, industrial development, and increasing the demand of wood created pressure on the forest and it started vanishing. He was not happy that the forest adjoining the village is not regenerating and the verge of disappearing due to the overgrazing of animals. So, due to the presence of the animals, they were grazing in that area. Due to that, the forests were not degenerated. Then, and it started vanishing. He was not happy that the forest adjoining the village is not regenerating and it is on the verge of disappearing. Professor Ahmed said that if we did things wisely, we could preserve the forest and environment as well as development. Children prepared a few pictures to show the consequences of such an event. What is shown here is at the end of the visit, what he asked the professor to sum up the importance of forests. Forests provide us oxygen, soil, protect the soil, habitat of large number of animals, and help in bringing good rainfall to the surrounding areas. They are source of what it is a storage house for many medicinal plants, timber, and many useful products. So it is our duty to conserve or preserve the forest. I think that's all about this chapter. It gives a clear picture of the forest and not to damage or destruct a forest. Give awareness to the children, not only to the children, to the generation, to preserve the forest, and which provide as a which is acting as a lungs to all the creatures surrounding it. That's all about this chapter. If you are interested, please do like, share, and subscribe my channel. Okay, thank you.